When I did my video featuring the top 10 quarterback recruits from 2009, that list featured a lot of notable names. Today's list, boy, I hope you have an extensive knowledge of college football history. We're going to be taking a look back at the top 10 quarterback recruits from the 2010 class. We're going to be using the 24/7 rankings for this countdown. Before we get to today's video, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. If you're a college football fan, then this is definitely the place for you. Kicking off the list at number 10 is Bray. While at Memphis High School, he was rated as one of the top 3 dual-threat quarterbacks in the nation. He led Memphis University School to back-to-back 13-0 seasons and state championships in 2008 and 2009. For his career, he threw for 3,900 yards with 43 touchdowns, while also rushing for 1,700 yards and 39 touchdowns. He committed to West Virginia, but only saw the field for a handful of snaps as he sat behind Geno Smith, ironically the number 10 recruit on the 2009 list. Brunetti transferred to Ole Miss, where he appeared in a total of 29 games. He played all over the field for the Rebels. As quarterback, he completed 65 of 112 passes for 636 yards and 7 passing touchdowns. He rushed for 700 yards with 7 rushing touchdowns. Currently, he's a brand manager for Enterprise Rent-A-Car in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Number 9 on our list is Paul Jones, who committed to Penn State. During his high school career at Stowe Rocks High School in Pennsylvania, he threw for 5,600 yards with 60 passing touchdowns. He also rushed for 500 yards and had 11 rushing touchdowns. During his freshman season, he was a redshirt and served as the quarterback on the scout team. While he showed promise and was expected to compete for the quarterback job in 2011, he had academic troubles and was forced to sit out the season due to being ineligible. He ended up being moved to tight end and appeared in his first game against Navy, where he caught a pass for 7 yards. However, he left the Penn State football team midway through the 2012 season. He transferred from Penn State to Robert Morris University, where he moved back to quarterback. He threw 1,600 yards and had 15 passing touchdowns and 11 interceptions for them. He also rushed for 150 yards and had 2 rushing touchdowns. But he ended up missing the 2014 season because yet again, he was ruled academically ineligible. And that would be the end of Paul Jones's football career. Number 8 on this list goes to Connor Wood, who committed to Texas but ended up transferring to Colorado. He attended Second Baptist High School in Houston, where he threw for 2,700 yards and 19 touchdowns his senior year. He chose to stay close to home as he chose the Longhorns, but he never saw the field for Texas and opted to transfer to Colorado after just a year. Garrett Gilbert, who was on the 2009 list, was named the starting quarterback for Texas, with Wood being the 3rd quarterback on the depth chart. In 2012, he played in 7 games but started in only 1 for Colorado. He completed half his passes for 260 yards and a touchdown, but 4 interceptions. He then started 5 games in 2013. He won the starting quarterback job his junior year, but he just didn't meet expectations. He completed just above 50% of his passes for 1,100 yards with 8 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Instead of entering his senior season with another chance to win the starting quarterback battle, Wood opted to retire and end his football career. Since the end of his football career, Connor Wood has been a consultant. He currently works for Bain & Company in Houston, Texas. Coming in at number 7 is Jake Heaps, who played at BYU. He attended Skyline High School in Washington. He led his football team to the 3A Washington State title in 2007 and the 4A title in 2008 and 2009. During those 3 years, he passed for a combined 9,200 yards with 114 touchdowns. There were a lot of outlets that actually had him near the top of their list for quarterback recruits, but 24/7 had him at number 7. He began his time at BYU sharing the starting quarterback spot, but became the full-time starter after an injury. He set Ty Detmer's freshman touchdown record that stood for 22 years with 15 passing touchdowns. As a true freshman, he threw for 2,300 yards with 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He started the first 5 games of the season in 2011, but was benched for his awful play. He was completing 57% of his passes and had 9 touchdowns with 8 interceptions. He announced that he would not travel with the team to the Armed Forces Bowl at the end of the season, but would instead be transferring schools. He announced he'd be transferring to Kansas to play for new coach Charlie Weiss, but due to NCAA transfer rules, he had a redshirt for the 2012 season. He struggled when he was given a shot the next year, as he threw 8 touchdowns with 10 interceptions, and ultimately lost the starting job. In 2014, he announced he'd be transferring yet again, this time going to Miami, but he lost the starting quarterback battle there as well. He appeared in only 3 games for the Hurricanes, completing half of his passes for only 50 yards. Heaps was signed by the New York Jets in 2015, but was released a few months later. Then, he spent time with the Brooklyn Bolts of the Fall Experimental Football League in 2015. He went back to the NFL and signed with the Seattle Seahawks in May of 2016, but he was released by them shortly after. He then was signed back to their practice squad, but was released a month after that. He then signed with the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the CFL in April of 2017, but was released later. He once again signed with the Seahawks, but was waived a month after that. Then in July of 2017, he was signed to the practice roster of the BC Lions of the CFL. but a month later, he was released. Currently, Jake is a frequent contributor and personality on 710 ESPN in Seattle. Number 6 on our list is Tyler Bray, who had a very successful career at Tennessee. He attended Kingsburg High School in California. As a senior, he led his team to a perfect 13-0 season while throwing for 3,300 yards and 41 touchdowns. He verbally committed to San Diego State, but had a change of heart and ended up with the Volunteers. As I mentioned, he had a great career with Tennessee and is one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the program. As a true freshman, he ranked 3rd among freshman quarterbacks in the country in quarterback rating, was 4th in touchdowns, 6th in passing yards, and 10th in total yards. And he did that in only 9 games. His junior season was the best, as he threw 34 touchdown passes. His 3,600 passing yards ranked 11th most in SEC history. His 34 passing touchdowns were the 7th most in SEC history. In 28 games with Tennessee, he threw for nearly 7,500 yards with 69 passing touchdowns and a quarterback rating of 145. When he wrapped up his career with the Volunteers, he was 4th in program history in touchdowns, 4th in passing yards, and 5th in completions. He declared for the 2013 NFL Draft, but went undrafted. He was signed as a free agent by the Kansas City Chiefs. He spent 5 seasons in Kansas City and only threw 1 pass. He then spent the next 3 seasons in Chicago with the Bears. He completed his first career passing attempt in 2020, throwing for 18 yards. Before we get to the top 5, if you could please take a second and give this video a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps share the video with more college football fans, and it only takes a second to do. Number 5 on this list goes to Rob Bolden, another quarterback who committed to Penn State, giving them 2 in this top 10. During his senior season, he threw for over 1,000 yards with 7 touchdowns, while running for 500 yards and 9 touchdowns. Bolden became the first true freshman to start the season opener at Penn State since 1910. In 2 seasons for the Nittany Lions, he appeared in 20 games, throwing for 2,000 yards with 7 touchdowns and 14 interceptions. After a shaky career, he opted to transfer to LSU in 2012. In 2013, he lost the backup job and was the 4th string quarterback. He didn't see the field during the 2013 season and even changed to wide receiver in the spring of 2014. But he opted to transfer to Eastern Michigan to finish his college career. He appeared in only 6 games, throwing for 400 yards with 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He went undrafted in the 2015 NFL Draft. After the draft, he accepted an invite to attend the Detroit Lions rookie minicamp on a tryout basis. He wasn't offered a contract, and that was the end of his football career. According to his LinkedIn, Rob Bolden is a current investment advisor rep, helping individuals and small businesses quarterback their finances. He spent the last 5 years working for Primerica. Number 4 on this list is Jesse Scroggins, who committed to USC. He's state local as he attended Lakewood High School in California. During his senior campaign, he threw for 2,400 yards with 35 passing touchdowns. It was a struggle for him at USC though. He had academic issues and was forced to miss the spring. He ultimately fell behind in the depth chart behind Max Wittek and Cody Kessler. He decided to leave USC, transferring to El Camino College. He played in 8 games there and threw for 1,200 yards with 8 touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. After a year there, he transferred to Arizona. But a foot injury that required surgery and a concussion again slowed him down. He missed all of 2013, and in his second season, he saw action in only 4 games, completing 7 of his 18 passes for 150 yards and 1 touchdown pass. He graduated from Arizona and then decided to transfer to Lindenwood to finish his college career. He appeared in 4 games, throwing 700 yards and 3 touchdowns, while rushing for 2 touchdowns. As recently as 2019, he was playing quarterback for the Carolina Havoc of the American Arena Football League. Before we get to the top 3, drop a comment down below and try to guess the top 3 quarterback recruits from the 2010 class. Number 3 should be a very familiar name, Devin Gardner. The Michigan commit was widely viewed as the top dual-threat quarterback in the nation. During his junior season at Inkster High School, he totaled nearly 50 touchdowns. During his first 2 seasons at Michigan, he appeared in 13 games, but there were just a few plays here and there. In 2012, he was converted to wide receiver. Through the first 4 games of the season, he was actually leading Michigan with 11 receptions for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns. But following an injury to Denard Robinson, Gardner converted back to quarterback. He would go on to be Michigan's starting quarterback for the next 2.5 years. When his career with the Wolverines was up, he racked up over 6,300 passing yards with 44 passing touchdowns and 900 rushing yards and 24 rushing touchdowns. Due to his size, NFL teams didn't view him as a quarterback at the next level. He went undrafted in 2015, but agreed to a contract with the Patriots. However, he was released shortly after. He was then claimed off waivers by the Steelers, who tried him out at wide receiver, but it didn't work out and he was released. Gardner then took his talents overseas as he played in Japan's X League. He finished the season with 1,700 passing yards and 12 touchdowns. He also added 8 rushing touchdowns and 400 yards on the ground. He was named the 2016 X League Rookie of the Year. He then came back to North America and signed in the CFL with the Rough Riders, but he was released a few months later, and that would be the end of his football career. He's now the host of Forward Progress on Fox Sports Detroit. Number 2 on our list is a quarterback who ended up having a pretty solid career as a tight end. Blake Bell committed to Oklahoma to play quarterback. He attended Bishop Carroll Catholic High School in Kansas. There, he threw for 2,700 yards and had 32 touchdowns as a senior. In addition to being a top quarterback recruit, he was also drafted by the Detroit Tigers in the MLB draft, but opted not to sign with them. With the Sooners, he was the backup quarterback to Landry Jones, but only appeared in the jumbo package. He had 44 rushing attempts for nearly 200 yards and 13 rushing touchdowns. As a passer, he completed 1 of 4 passes for 8 yards and an interception. He was named the MVP of the 2011 Insight Bowl after he rushed for 51 yards with 3 touchdowns. As a sophomore in 2012, he was again the backup quarterback and was used mostly in the jumbo package yet again. He rushed for over 200 yards with 11 touchdowns and only threw for 100 yards. As a junior, he appeared in 11 games and was actually utilized more as a quarterback. He threw for 1,700 yards and had 12 passing touchdowns. As a senior in 2014, he was converted to a tight end after the emergence of redshirt freshman Trevor Knight. He appeared in 9 games and was used mostly for blocking purposes. He had 16 catches for 214 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was selected by the San Francisco 49ers in the 4th round of the 2015 NFL Draft. Over the years, he's played for the 49ers, Vikings, Jaguars, Chiefs, and Cowboys. Over that time, he's caught 49 passes for over 500 yards. He played for Dallas, where he caught 11 passes for 180 yards, both the most since his rookie season. Number 1 on this list goes to Alabama football commit Phillip Sims. He attended Oscar F. Smith High School in Virginia. During his senior season, he threw for just under 3,000 yards with 33 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Most outlets had him as the top quarterback recruit in the nation. He redshirted his freshman season, then in 2011 was the backup quarterback behind A.J. McCarron. Sims never got his chance at Alabama, and he wasn't going to win the starting job anytime soon, so he opted to transfer to Virginia in 2012. He appeared in all 12 games for them, throwing for 1,300 yards with 9 touchdowns. A year later, he was ruled academically ineligible with Virginia, so he transferred to Winston-Salem State. Due to transfer rules, he had to wait a year before suiting up. In 2014, he played in all 11 games. Splitting time at quarterback, he was the team's leading passer, completing 60% of his passes for 1,600 yards with 15 touchdowns. He went undrafted, but was invited to an Arizona Cardinals rookie camp. He was signed by the Cardinals in May, but was released a few months later. In 2016, he signed a contract with the Seahawks, but was waived a few months later. Then in June of 2016, he went to the CFL and signed with the Rough Riders. He didn't make the team, and that would be the end of his playing career. However, his football career didn't end. In 2017, he was named the head football coach at John Marshall High School in Virginia. Then in 2020, he accepted the head coaching position at J.R. Tucker High School in Richmond. So that wraps up this top 10 countdown. Who are you most surprised to see on this list? Or who's a name that you completely forgot about? Drop a comment down below and let me know. If you haven't done so yet, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really helps share the video with more college football fans. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on those notifications for more college football content like this. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video.